Hi traders, this is Elite Currency. My name is Chris, and today again Forex market analysis and potential trade setups on this 20th of August, looking at the week ahead. Let's kick off this video with taking a look at the odd USD daily chart. Last week we were saying that this is a corrective price action and choppy potential wave 4 when looking also compared to this move up and momentum. And indeed, price bounced at the 38.2 fib, turned around and made a bounce at that level, made a hook back, and looks like it's making a continuation, and it still is in that process. By the end of last week, I think that price is setting itself up for a continuation. A confirmation of that would be a break above this orange trend line, and price could go to the minus 272 target at 80 and perhaps extend once it goes above the round level up to 80.50, and then perhaps go to the minus 272 target of the daily fib at 82.50. All right, so the biggest space basically at this moment is up in here. I should use blue for that, right there. But also between the trend line and this particular top, there's another space. So looking for break continuation pullbacks in space 1 and space 2 for Aussie continuation. Anyone who joined the trade, perhaps like myself, in here and in here, is doing well and has made some profit, or is still in the trade and can move it to break even, or use this bottom as well, for instance, to let this trade go, hopefully. Now, if that fails for whatever reason, the moving averages are now aligned to the upside again, but nothing is, of course, a guarantee. So if price were to break below this bottom and this trend line, then the upside is invalidated. For new potential trades, I think that there would have to be a retracement bounce. That's one idea, somewhere around, probably again around 79, I think. Or a break, as I just mentioned already, to break out here, break, pullback, and continuation on the 4-hour, 1-hour charts. And of course, the SWOT is good for that. You can see how price shows the pullback and continuation right there. That's where I took the first trade, and here's the second trade, and here's where I took the first trade to the upside. And you can see that if price were to continue like this and then show a pullback continuation, it could look something similar to this, or maybe even less deep, actually, less deep. It would be a break, pullback, gray candles, and continuation would be blue candles. Let's take a look at the pound USD. You can see that price is at the long-term moving average, which is a bounce or break spot. Now, price could poke a little bit through the moving average and still bounce for a wave 2. This is probably a wave 1. That is possible. Look like this. Look at this right here, right? Still respecting the long-term moving average, but breaking a little bit below it. Sometimes the bounce is very precise, like here. So it is a rough zone of support, and I think that price could still make the dash down to 127.50-ish, and then still potentially make an ABC up and then move down again. That's what I'm expecting, and there would be a potential head and shoulders there. Let's see if that happens. For the moment, this is still a wave 4. Price did not break above the 50 fib. If it does break above the 50 fib, above the 21 EMA, and above the trend line with a good candle, solid close near the high with a good bullish candle, that would signal the start of, or the start of wave A, and price might get up to 130, make a wave B, and then a wave C to the upside, right? Only if there's a good, strong bullish candle. If there is a bearish break, right, then there's still some space between 128.50 here and 127.50, like that. Here too, looking on a lower time frame for break, pullback, continuation, on an hourly chart, 15-minute chart, perhaps even a break of that the bear flag to downside. This was not a good break. There was a big wick at the bottom, but in this case, next time it might be a sustainable break. Price might do like this, make a bear flag, and then continue down to 127.50, which is a potential bouncing spot. So that's the bear flag. The break of the bear flag to the down or upside, I think, are both interesting. For me, the most interesting, though, for the upside, if it breaks, is the pullback and then the continuation for C, or if it breaks, the pullback here for the move down to the target. The euro dollar, still an uptrend, definitely different than the pound, as you can see, strong uptrend here. And at this moment, I think a continuation to the upside is likely. Looking at this bull flag pattern, you see the uptrend, price above the moving averages growing further away from each other, and then the corrective chart pattern, very slow, very choppy, typical wave 4, and I think that the break of this bull flag should see continuation. So looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see that basically moving averages are still aligned. The price is challenging the resistance. So potential trades, well, the break above this resistance, and of course the break above the bull flag here. Looking also for pullback continuation, and using the SWOT template, basically we'll be looking for a blue candle up above 118 on an hourly chart. Excuse me. We'll be looking for a break, pullback, continue, where price gets back to the 21 EMA and then bounces using the SWOT template. Back to the normal template, you can see that I took a trade setup on Friday, somewhere in here. I talked about that. I did close that before the weekend because price didn't go anywhere, it was just going sideways. Nothing much interesting really there. So I just decided to take that trade off, not wanting to hold it over the weekend because it's just so choppy. I mean, I think it still looks bullish on the 4-hour chart. However, on the hourly chart, it does look very choppy, and you never know, in a range like this, price could make a downside, then upside. It could last for longer than we think. So I'd rather wait for the confirmation, rather wait first for price to make the break, then look for pullback, and rather trade that than hang in here too long. I don't like hanging on to a trade that takes too long to develop, especially before a weekend. So just took it off and waiting for a renewed confirmation of the upside. If it does move down, right, if it does not break and it bounces, it could retest the bottom of the channel, and it could break around, it could bounce around 116 as it basically tests the bottom of that bull flag channel. Let's take a look at some of the yen pairs. The dollar yen is at a decisive moment, I think, because it's challenging the support zone again, and it did break below the invalidation level of upside, which is this bottom at 108.70. That could be a first hint of more downside. There is a wick on Friday's bearish daily candle. That might, of course, indicate that the bears did not keep control. However, Friday is a difficult day because the market is closing for the weekend, right? The retail market. So from that perspective, there is always the chance that there are some positions closed before the weekend. So that could have caused some of that wick. So I am going to wait and see, to be precise. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have any favorite up or down. I think there could still be a bouncing spot, or there could be a break. I'm going to wait for price action to tell me. I think using a daily candle is good. If there's a bullish candle on Monday like this, probably will be a bounce. If there's a bearish candle eking like this, looks like it's trying to break, and it probably will. So I think Monday, Tuesday daily candles will be important. Looking at a 4-hour chart, we do see some reaction here, but once again, that could be just the Friday trading. I think that from this perspective, 4-hour chart, if it manages to get above this trend line, it would be showing a breakout. Could put a fib on here to here. Look for a pullback, and there could be a continuation, right? If it challenges this trend line with a lot of momentum, that would change it as well. That would change the structure and my expectations a bit. But for the moment, I would say that looking at the daily candles for more confirmation, and if anything, I'm leaning towards actually a break to the downside. But it's so mild that I would rather wait for the daily candle to confirm that. But considering the bearish alignment here of the moving averages, the break of this bottom, I think that slight favor to this basically seeing a bounce to the downside and break later on. Will be interesting to see if price could manage to break, pull back, continue like that, and that could already potentially be a setup on lower time frames. But it's a bit early actually. So let's take a look at some of the other yen pairs. Euro yen also tried to break below this support trend line. Talked about that also throughout last week and said that this triangle needs a break. But this break, right, is a doji. That is not a good solid bearish break with a bearish close in the low. Now it is the second attempt to break below the 21 EMA, and there is divergence actually as well between these tops. Maybe not on the daily chart, but on the 4-hour chart for sure. Even on the daily chart slightly. So from that perspective, there is this space down to the long-term moving average about at 125. But with last week's doji, there's a lot of indecision. So again, caution with the yen pair. It is bearishly aligned. just like the dollar again, when you look at the moving averages. But I think it's a tricky one. I think that probably more confirmation is needed on Monday. I will release a video tomorrow. Take a look at the open of the week, and I think we'll know more. I think that price will have to prove itself probably by showing a break, pullback, continuation, and then there could be an interesting zone when it does that. That could be, pretty well lined up if something like that happens. Looking at the daily chart of the pound yen, you can see also here space, right down to this bottom. We had a ascending wedge that didn't break to the upside, but looks like it's breaking to the downside. It's breaking the support trend line rather than the resistance trend line. And I think that that's looking a tad better than the euro yen at this moment at least, but the euro yen also could turn. It looks like it bounced off the minus 272 target, and the next target is the minus 61.8 target. So let's see on a 1 hour chart. All right, there we go. You can see that price has traveled quite some distance, 322 pips. So from this perspective, it is actually at between the 4th and 5th whiz level. So I think that there was a big bounce here, but and that could lead to an ABC correction. Don't get me wrong. But if it shows weakness, if it breaks like this, pulls back, and then doesn't break above the 21 AMA here, I think that there is a good continuation possibility down to the minus 61.8 target. So I'll be waiting for that kind of pattern. The failure of this zigzag in a way, because that's something I want to be aware of. This could be a zigzag, and therefore I want to see some confirmation that price is not breaking above this 21 EMA band. All right, so that will take some time, but something like here, for instance, here you see two challenges of the 21, but a failure to break and then the break to the downside. Something like that again, all right? And that would be, it's possible because this is a big bear flag break, this is a small bear flag break, so this could be a wave 1, 2, this could be a wave 3, this could be a wave 4, and it could be a wave 5, for instance. So it's definitely possible that something like that could happen, but I need confirmation for that. Let's take a look at dollar CAD. Dollar CAD moving nicely. A friend of mine caught some great pips on this, luckily to the downside. I think he used the SWOT template on the hourly chart. I think he took this particular setup right there, and not sure where he exited, but it was with a good profit, so took some of that right in here. So good job on that, and you can see that this is making an ABC, and it's easy to see with the SWOT template where you can enter. That's the great benefit of that. So back to normal candles, and I think that there could be a continuation down to the minus 272 target at 125 or the minus 61.8 target, all around 125, and there could be a reversal. Reversals are difficult, but in this case, from a wave perspective, I think it does make sense. Wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This could be an A, B, C, pretty classical in a way. So yeah, this basically shouldn't break this bottom, otherwise it is invalidated. But if it stays above that bottom at 124, could be bullish bouncing spots, and could make a pretty hefty move up to the minus 272 target, which would be, if we put a fib on the entire move up like this, around 128.75. So that could be a substantial move, and I think basically bullish candlestick patterns at 125 could be an early way to take that reversal trade. Kiwi on the daily chart still looking bullish, but definitely bearish on the lower time frames. A bit of a mixed picture here. I think not that interesting at this moment from my perspective. I would need to see a break, pullback, continue before I think it's interesting to trade. Gold is bouncing, big bearish pin bar at that resistance level around 1290, 1300. That could be finally maybe the move that that could see price challenge the middle again. But let's see, you never know. If it does break above 1300, there could be a bullish breakout. For the moment, I still think that this move down to 1250 is likely. Friday's candle could be a confirmation of that. We spoke about these yen pairs. Euro pound, interesting spot, 88.6 fib when putting a fib from here to here. And price did respect the 61.8, the 38, the 61.8. So I think there's a decent chance of the price respecting the 88.6 fib. If it doesn't, then it does look bullish up to the top. And And then if it breaks the top, it could go all the way to 7/8 at 95 and continue the uptrend. So pretty important spot for the moment, considering the divergence on the 4-hour chart. Not on the daily chart, but the 4-hour chart, yes, double divergence. Plus, it is looking like a rising wedge formation when putting resistance line like this and support trend line like this. Slight rising wedge. Rising wedges are difficult. It could still poke a little bit through it, hit that top of the rising wedge, and I think that after so many divergences and the 880.6 fib, there could be a move back to the long-term moving average. But reversals are reversals, always very difficult to time. Euro-AUD is bullish from the moving average perspective, but I'm not a big fan of this particular situation because it broke but very weak, and now it's moving down, and weekly candle is quite bearish. So I think that from this perspective, daily candle is bullish, though moving averages are mixed. I'll talk about that again tomorrow because I have no particular preference for the Euro-AUD at this moment. I'll just wait for more price action. Pound-AUD, daily chart is looking bearish to me. You can see downtrend channel, lower lows, lower highs, recently in lower low. Bottom is far away from here. If you use the whiz levels, you can see that there's a good space between here. So there could be, once price continues, I think this is a sweet zone with some minor targets in between as well. Let's dive in and zoom into that. And I think that, basically looking bearish from this perspective as well on the 4-hour chart, everything aligned. 1-hour chart, basically looking for a setup. We had a setup here. I took it here and here. Those ended up well. I closed those before the weekend with profit nicely. Now looking for a new setup. So I think if there's a pullback continuation, it should be good to go down to about 160, maybe 160.25, maybe a small bounce at 161, by the way, as well, minus 272 target. And I'm expecting continuation. Let's see if that happens. I mean, if price were to break above the 21 EMA, by the way, then it could, of course, we have to be aware of this double bottom. And if it does break above it, there could be an ABC correction. Not that I want to trade it, but the retracement could go deeper, maybe back to 162.50. And I would, at the moment, expect still a continuation. So that's about it. A bit longer video than usual, but we do have the whole week in front of us, so wanted to dive into some of these ideas a bit longer. Let's see, Mondays are always a bit difficult. Take the time to scout and analyze. The market is a bit slower on Monday. It needs to set itself up. So we'll take a look at the beginning of the week tomorrow again. If you like this video, please share, like, and subscribe. Take a look at elitecurrency.com for a lot of free info and materials, and wish you all great trading. Cheers.